Okay. Good morning, or afternoon, or whatever. It's Tuesday. It's been a long week, you know. My name is Tom Anderson. I'm a BlackBerry developer evangelist, which means I don't know what time zone I'm in most of the time because I'm traveling around talking to people like you at JAM conferences or meetups or things like that. And today I'm going to talk to you about the Built for BlackBerry program because I worked a little bit on the Built for BlackBerry program. I'm also joined by Nancy McMillan, who's here in the front. Nancy McMillan is the senior project manager for basically Built for BlackBerry. Built for BlackBerry was her major project over the last 6 or 7, 8, 9, 10 months. And so what we want to do today is we're going to go through, and I hate podiums, by the way, we're going to go through the past, present, and future of the program. You heard Alec talk a little bit about Built for BlackBerry and some of the future things that we've got coming down the pike. But the interesting thing to note is where we've been with Built for BlackBerry. And as I give you this conversation and we talk about this, the other thing you've got to know is as a developer evangelist, and Nancy's also part of DevRel, as developer relations, we're really interested in hearing what you think, right? We want to make this program a success for you, so we need input. So a long, long time ago, not in a galaxy far, far away, we came up with this idea of BlackBerry 10. And a little over a year ago, we realized this BlackBerry 10 thing was pretty phenomenal. We had the great Scott face. And I'll tell you, as an inside joke, that used to be Doc Brown. How many people know who Doc Brown is? He's got hair like this. He had a lab coat. But unfortunately, we couldn't get that past our copyright censors. So anytime you see a smiley face, just picture this there, okay? All right. So Great Scott, we had this BlackBerry 10 thing, and we looked at it and we said, wow, this is really cool. Not only is it really cool, but it's really different, and it's new. The way you interact with the device, the flow, the peak, the deep integration that you can get with the device was really incredible, at least we thought back then. So we said, okay, if we've got this really cool device and we've got this really cool thing, we need to make sure that people leverage that thing. That people don't just do the same old thing on the device, that they really take advantage of our device. So we started putting together the Built for BlackBerry program. And the Built for BlackBerry program had two philosophies. For the developer, it was about coaxing you and letting you explore BlackBerry 10 and how to really build an application for BlackBerry 10. And if you're going to take that ride with us, we also wanted to make sure that we helped you be successful. So part of being the Built for BlackBerry program is we wanted to increase your visibility into our application store. Because after all, we all know as app developers that the key to application success is discoverability, right? You said it. You knew it. You could have said it. It's about discoverability. So Built for BlackBerry was going to allow us as BlackBerry a way to identify the applications that really took advantage of BlackBerry 10, and thus we could then promote them more. We could give them increased visibility in our user community. If you follow DevBlog, you know that there's been a series of articles written about Built for BlackBerry apps in DevBlog. Social media, digital meeting. We were going to put you in BlackBerry World. We have got a special button in BlackBerry World, right? We wanted to increase the visibility. So that was the goal for the developer. Then for the consumer, the idea for the consumer was that we wanted to provide that familiar BlackBerry interface. Because all of us who have used BlackBerry 10 for a long time now can recognize an Android app like that, right? Because after all, it doesn't feel like BlackBerry 10. It doesn't work like BlackBerry 10. And we also know that there are applications that are written in our native platforms, HTML5, Air even, that also don't really feel like a BlackBerry 10 application. So for the consumer, we wanted to make sure that you could identify really easily the familiar BlackBerry 10 applications. Because after all, if you have a Built for BlackBerry app, it feels like BlackBerry 10. You already know how to use it. You know there's a settings menu in the upper right corner of the app bar, right? You pull down the app menu, there's your settings menu. So all these things that make it familiar for the customer. There's a lower learning curve. Because there's a lower learning curve, the consumer feels like the application, they already know how to use it. You get better ratings, right? Higher performing applications that took advantage of the system and didn't drain batteries, right? So we wanted a way to be able to show the consumer really great BlackBerry 10 applications that not only took advantage of the philosophy that we built into BlackBerry 10, but also provided enhanced productivity or enhanced entertainment. How many of you were in Alex's speech this morning, or this afternoon, or whenever he talked? Yeah, okay. So one of the things that he said, right, is that BlackBerry users are app-hungry users, right? They use their apps a ton, and they're constantly looking for new apps. So we said, for Built for BlackBerry, that's going to come through as enhanced productivity or enhanced entertainment. If we're saying this is a great app on BlackBerry 10, we know our BlackBerry 10 users want something that really works for them, makes them either enhanced productivity or enhanced entertainment. So we announced BlackBerry at JAM America's 2012. At this conference last year, we announced BlackBerry JAM America. How many were here last year when we announced this? You were here. We announced it along with the 10K developer commitment, which is now closed. But the 10K developer commitment, if you don't know, was basically a program that allowed us to take away the fear of building for BlackBerry. So if you created a Built for BlackBerry app and got it in our store before launch, January 30th, then we would guarantee that your app would make at least $10,000 in either paid downloads or in-app payments. Or if it didn't, we would cut you a check for the difference. And in order to qualify for the 10K program, you had to do a Built for BlackBerry application. You had to build an application that really reflected Built for BlackBerry. So we announced that program at BlackBerry JAM America's 2012, but we weren't quite ready with the criteria. So come November, we announced the criteria of what it meant to be a Built for BlackBerry application. And it basically comes down to 5 key components. The first component is user benefits. The second component is user experience, performance, service integration, and security. Now there's a 6th block up here that says games. Because as we talked through the idea behind Built for BlackBerry, we realized that games were kind of a special beast. They needed slightly different rules. So the games section is actually more about exceptions than it is about buy-ins. So when we talk about user benefits, the key thing was, as I mentioned in the last point in the philosophy slide, this had to provide genuine entertainment value, which means it had to go above and beyond. If you built an application that allowed me to play solitaire, it could be a fabulous solitaire game. It could be an incredibly high-quality solitaire game. But all it does is play solitaire. That's not an enhanced entertainment value for me. That's just one game. And I'd get bored with it fairly quickly. You need to have enhanced productivity. If you build me a tip calculator, that's nice, right? Handy. But is it productive? Well, it's handy. Could be a really high quality tip calculator. But is it a Built for BlackBerry tip calculator? Well, it doesn't really give me enhanced productivity. Now, maybe if you tied it into NFC and allowed me to share with my other people and say, okay, this is how much you owe me, this is how much you owe me, oh, and we can integrate with PayPal and have it automatically transferred funds back and forth, now we're talking, right? Enhanced or enriched communication, more than just talking back and forth or sharing information. So it was all about providing this higher level of user benefits. We wanted to get rid of the applications that were really simple run-of-the-mill applications. Applications that play a noise. We can all think of what application I'm talking about. This is recorded, so I'm not going to say it out loud. Or, displays a simple graphic, right? A picture of a cat. Nice, okay? We wanted to make sure that because BlackBerry people are app-hungry people, and they use their phones to be productive and to keep moving, we wanted to make sure that if they had a Built for BlackBerry app, they're like, this fits right in with the whole philosophy of BlackBerry 10. From the user experience side, we says, okay, there's certain things that you have to do. You have to build it for the form factor. It's got to look good on the screen. We didn't want to see an application that had like black bars at the top or bottom because you were too lazy to make the graphic fit, right? Or if you turned it sideways and everything got squished over and stretched out. So you had to take advantage of the orientation. If you use the orientation. Now, there's no rule that says you've got to run landscape and portrait. But you had to take advantage of the orientation and the form factor. So now that we're into the Q10 mode, a Built for BlackBerry application has to work well and look good on the 7x20 screen. You had to focus on content. One of the big tenets of BlackBerry in general, BlackBerry 10, is that content is king. That's why we give every single pixel on the screen to you as developers to use. We don't keep a system bar, we don't keep a time bar, a date bar, nothing. It's all for you so that you can get your content to your people. So use the content correctly. Screens should be uncluttered. The most common actions on an action bar, the least common actions have on an overflow menu. Don't have huge cluttered screens with a ton of buttons when all they really need is 2 or 3 functions and the rest can be accessed through a context menu or through an overflow bar. Use gestures and flow, the fluid interaction. If you've used an Android app, you know that going backwards is tough, right? Because you've got to slide diagonally up from the bottom instead of the normal gesture that we're all used to. So use the flow in your applications. Use the application navigation. I mentioned frequent accents should be easy to access. So right on the action bar, the most common one's in the middle because that's the easiest part for your thumb to get to. Menus should be center justified or bottom justified. Again, easy to reach to from your thumb. Use the BlackBerry 10 UX and UI guidelines. We've got them published out there. They have everything in there from types of icons to use to what features should be where. Things like common system functions that everybody has, like delete, should be on a context menu down at the bottom. So follow the UI and UX guidelines. Again, this is down to where somebody picks up your app, it feels familiar. And they're like, oh yeah, I know how to use this app, even if they've never seen it before, because it's BlackBerry, built for BlackBerry. And the last one was provide progress feedback. So use the BlackBerry 10 progress meter, right? So they recognize, oh, I'm downloading, or I'm connecting, oh, I'm waiting for something. Don't use your own styles, because that's not what people are used to seeing. So it's all about the user experience and going with the BlackBerry 10 user experience. Now, we do have a couple of user experience sessions here today. So if you are looking for more in-depth about the user experience, hook up with JAM01, which is the Built for BlackBerry UI UX guides from, did Damien leave? See in the dark? Yeah, with my friend Damien and Edgar, so they were here. That's going to be Wednesday. And 08, Built for BlackBerry, how to go from rejected to approved. This session is actually being driven by Jerome Carty. So you guys know Jerome, he writes Black, right? He also writes Trapeze, which originally was rejected and has now been approved. So he's going to talk about his experiences with that. Nancy will be joining him there as well. And that's Thursday from 1 to 2. So more in-depth about the user experience sessions are right there. We also want to talk about performance, because after all, the greatest application in the world isn't going to get things done if it's slow, if it's laggy, if it just doesn't provide that experience that we need to be able to get. So we want to make sure that your CPU, your memory, your network, and your battery usage is done judiciously, right? Now, for instance, using the CPU intelligently, right? Yes, there are times when your app is going to be CPU hungry. Most apps have that in them. But is it constant? Or do you actually change it around, right? So we look at your CPU and how you use it. Does it grab a whole bunch of cycles and just hold on to them? Or does it judiciously move up and down? Same with memory. Does it release memory correctly? Or does it have memory leaks in it? Is it constantly talking over the network, even though it doesn't have to, right? Are you looking for a GPS location every millisecond when your app really doesn't need that? When your app can get away with every 5 minutes or so, right? Are you using the system correctly and properly in order to maximize the performance of your application? Now, if you want more details about performance, I've got more labs. JAM02, Built for BlackBerry Performance Tuning for WebWorks. So if you're looking at HTML5 and WebWorks, that is Wednesday still tomorrow, right? Yeah, okay. So that's Wednesday the 15th, tomorrow afternoon. If you're looking for Cascade applications tuning, that's tomorrow afternoon as well. Okay? Now these are hands-on labs, so they're actually going to show you some of the tools and tricks they have to be able to performance tune your applications. So get your applications working, get them tight so that they're not using and wasting a lot of the resources. We also have service integration. Remember, I talked about this philosophy of BlackBerry 10 and how it really works and how it flows. But also, as you saw in Alex's keynote this morning, part of the idea of BlackBerry 10 is not a BlackBerry 10 handset device, right? It's about mobile computing. And it's about allowing the applications to integrate with each other and talk with each other so that we can get more out of the application. So we provide a lot of services for you on the platform. In order to qualify for Built for BlackBerry, you have to integrate with one of these services. That's all there is to it. Either the payment services, the BBM social platform, advertising, analytics, location, maps, push,
And then the bottom three, invocation framework, NFC, and score loop. Okay? I know NFC isn't a service. NFC is a piece of hardware, but that's okay because integrating with NFC is a really useful thing. Now, some people look at this and they say, wow, you know, a bunch of things I need to integrate with. Well, let me tell you something. Ooh, I could use my pointer. This one here, oh. Don't look in the pointer, right? There we go. This one right here, even if you're not going for build for BlackBerry, you should integrate with the BBM. Interesting stat from the BBOS 7 days. BBM integration in BBOS 07, where all you did was post to the person's status line that you downloaded their application. In BBOS 7, before we launched BB10, about 2% of the applications had that integration. About 2%. But those 2% of the applications were responsible for 20% of the downloads through BlackBerry App World. So think about that. 2% of the applications were responsible for 20% of the downloads. Last summer, we passed 3 billion downloads in BlackBerry OS 7. So integrating with BBM is a great way to get your application discovered. So I get up on my soapbox up here whenever I talk to any developer. I'm hanging out at Starbucks and they tell me I'm a developer. I say, do you integrate with BBM? Because every application should integrate with BBM. There's no excuse not to. I mean, it's how you become viral. It's how you get discovered. Okay, off the soapbox. But there's a lot of cool stuff here in order for you to be able to integrate with your system. The invocation framework, to be able to have other applications help you out, right? So that you can say, hey, I need somebody to open this doc file for me. It'll find it for you, right? NFC. I'm a big fan of NFC. I love NFC. The stuff you can do with the BlackBerry 10 and NFC, you know, tap to share pictures. You don't have to do anything special or swap websites. It's just cool stuff. And I really want to see what you guys can do with NFC. So a lot of this stuff is really logical for your application, but it is required for a built for BlackBerry application. Now, fortunately, we've got lots of sessions about service integration. So we've got the system with BBM, which is Thursday. Payment services is also Thursday, and Wednesday we've got invocation framework. So we space these ones out, so if you want to go to all of them, you can hit all of them. If you want to focus on one, you can focus on one. But these guys are going to take you in depth on integrating with the systems. And it's key for built for BlackBerry, and also, as I said, for BBM, I think it's key for the success of your app, too. It's a really great way to be found. The other point we had was security. BlackBerry's known for security. Security is built into BlackBerry 10 from the ground up. So a built for BlackBerry application, an application that is really going to shine on our platform, has to be a secure application as well. And basically that means be good to your users, right? Don't try to process payments without their approval. Don't try to access data without their approval. Now, we're going to shut you down anyways if you don't ask for permissions, but this is a real quick way to be thrown out of built for BlackBerry and fail, right? Uploading personal data without user approval. Be good to your users, right? Think about you as a person. Would you want this app to do these types of things, right? So that's one part of security. The other part of security is you have to let the users know how you're using their data. So you need to have a privacy policy link in BlackBerry Vendor Portal information. That's the bare minimum. Personally, I would like to see that link in your application as well. I think that's just smart for your customers, right? To say, hey, here's how we'd be able to do this. So the minimum is to make sure that you've got the link to your privacy policy in the BlackBerry Vendor Portal. So the user can go out and find how you're going to use their data, what your privacy policy is. Now, I told you the games were kind of this extra little thing. So as we're looking at a lot of this, we realized that the games were really kind of a special beast, if you will. So we had to come up with some special criteria for games. Some that were exceptions, some that were additions. One thing was that we realized that a lot of games are built on top of game engines. Things like Gameplay, Unity, Marmalade, Shiva, Cocos 2DX. So we said, okay, fine, that's cool, as long as that game engine is built for BlackBerry. Basically, it's designed to run on BlackBerry. Okay? So we've got a list of game engines that do that. Because after all, if you're going to use a game engine, we want that game engine to work well on BlackBerry. Now that doesn't mean you can't use your own internally developed game engine. All that means is if you do, we might take a little longer to test your application. Because we've got to test out the game engine as well. Whereas if you say, you know what, I'm built on top of Unity, cool. All we got to look at really is gameplay, because we know Unity's taking care of everything else. If you're bringing an application over from another platform, we're also going to look at a competitor port analysis. So we're going to look for at least 4 out of 5 stars on any other platform that you bring it over. Part of that is that we realize that the rating system also reflects how good you are to your customers, right? Because if you have a really good app and you're good to your customers, you answer their emails, you provide extended value, you're going to get high ratings, right? If you've got a really good app and you're not nice to your customers and you don't answer your email, it doesn't really matter that you've got a really good app. You're still going to get bad ratings, right? So the ratings allow us to judge not only is it a good game, but also how do you treat your customers. And finally, we also exempt the games from the service integration. So you don't have to integrate a game with any of our services, although still valuable to do BBM, right? Also, score loop is really handy in there. And there's a reason why we did this, but I'm not going to tell you. Well, later. I'll tell you later in a couple of slides. So you're exempt from service integration. So games are slightly different. And also, games can also break the UI guidelines. Because after all, your game may be creating its own little world with its own little look, right? You may have the, shoot the rubber ducky game. And you want your buttons to look like shot rubber duckies, right? Well, that may not fit in an app BlackBerry UI UX guideline, but it makes perfect sense in your game. So we don't want to force you to break that mentality for your game, so you don't have to do the full UI UX guidelines. You still have to be gesture-based, and you still have to interact correctly. You just may not have to follow the exact icon guidelines. So let's look at a couple of examples of current built for BlackBerry applications, ones that I have on my device. One of them is Stocks. So the Stocks application is pretty much exactly like what you'd expect. It displays a list of stocks. But the neat thing about it is it's clearly a BlackBerry 10 application. It's got the action bar down at the bottom with the very clear and distinct buttons, right? I can do navigations. This is kind of a half of a peek mode here. So when I'm in the details of the news of a company, I can slide to peek over, so it's clearly using the gestures, right? It's integrated with our systems, so I don't have a BBM screen on here, but you can do BBM. It's very fluid in how it works. It's very judicious in how it gets its information. It's a very good built for BlackBerry application. Another one we have, Fancy Trend, one of the very early built for BlackBerry applications. I think Alec wrote a post about this one very early on. Great application, real simple interface. You've got a box where you put in your information. You tell it from what language to what language, and then very simple screen to be able to look at the content. It also has the settings menu in the upper right-hand corner. Did I mention the settings menu in the upper right-hand corner? You would be amazed how many built for BlackBerry apps are this close to being built for BlackBerry. Right? Everything else is perfect, and the settings menu, which is specified in the UI UX guidelines, is down here, or over here, or somewhere else. And it's amazing how many we come back and say, listen, all you really need to do is move it to there. So settings in the upper right-hand corner, and the help in the upper left-hand corner, right? Because that's where people expect them. That's why we put them there. When you've got an application, you think, hey, settings, first thing you should think is swipe down from the top and look for it up there. This button. Sparkle. Sparkle is one of my favorite games up until it beat me the other day and I had to start over. It is a very challenging game. It's in its basic gameplay, it's pretty simple. It's one of these games here where the orbs are zipping along this track, and you have to shoot the colored orbs and disappear, right? And then the orbs disappear and they fall back down. You got to keep going, and you got multiple levels like that, right? Pretty simple gameplay. But what they did is they added this whole story element to it as well. So you get this other level, this enhanced entertainment value, where not only do you have to do this to be able to get rid of the orbs, but you have to explore this land and get tokens and amulets from hidden within this land. So you have another level of gameplay in it. So a great built for BlackBerry app, even if I can't win. Crackberry.com. I had to put this in for Kevin, but I love Crackberry.com. Clearly, a great built for BlackBerry application. It has the menu over here with all the things it needs to have. It has a different icon for each item. That's important because it's amazing how many of these have the same icon. It's even more critical when we look at a context menu, because remember, in a context menu, you get the little peak where all you see is the icons. And if all the icons are the same, you can't navigate. UI guidelines say these need to be different icons for everything that's there. So Crackberry's got a very clean, content-focused front page. They realize that they've got a bunch of different sections, but instead of trying to clutter up here, you just slide that over and you get all the information there. Then the action bar is context aware. So it tells you the action bar changes based on where I am. And as I'm downloading, I'm in the shop here, as I'm downloading, they bring up the bar, the progress bar, to tell me that I'm still downloading more information. All the things and elements that I expect to see in a built for BlackBerry application. Spotcast. Spotcast is another great application. One of the things that I love about Spotcast is what I mentioned earlier. They have a privacy policy button. So when you go to their application menu, click About, you get this screen, and you got a privacy policy button, click, goes to their website. Now, as I said, strictly speaking, for Built for BlackBerry, all you have to do is provide the policy in your vendor portal. But this is what a user really wants. So take the extra step and go ahead and give them a link here so that they can be able to see it. So, we then sat down and said, okay, we've got all these great criteria. Now, what else do we have? Okay, well, let's make sure that they're using the technologies we want them to use. HTML5, Cascades, and our native NDK. So here's Doc Brown again. And we were ready to go. So we came up with these criteria. We launched the program. We're ready to go. And we got feedback. The first feedback we got was, what about Adobe Air? You can build some really great things with Adobe Air. We said, okay. We initially left Adobe Air off, really for one big reason. Because we didn't have score loop integration with Adobe Air. And we wanted all our games to integrate with score loop. We listened to the developers. They sent us Air games. We looked at a lot of them. We said, wow, these are really great games. So maybe it's not right that we should punish the Air developers who are building really great BlackBerry 10 games just because we don't have score loop ready yet. So we let the Air games in, and we took away the service integration for games because we weren't quite there yet. We weren't quite there yet. Now, we will announce score loop integration in 10.1 so that we can be able to have that there. But the key is that we wanted to hear what people said, and we wanted to make the changes for the developers, keeping in mind that the goal was quality applications and quality games. The next thing we heard was about our submissions process. This is the original diagram for the submissions process, and it was a little complicated for us to be able to do the submissions process. So we fixed it, right? We simplified the process down to simply building your application, getting it vetted, and then putting it into BlackBerry. We also figured that, okay, let's also provide you feedback. So if your app fails, we provide you feedback so that you can then correct it, and you can submit it a couple more times. Now we're going. Then we ran into this one. What does enhanced mean? Some of the applications that we got and some of the feedback we got from people was that they wanted Built for BlackBerry status even though their application was single function. And we went round and round and round and round. Nancy will tell you, buy us a beer. We'll tell you about the stories in the hallways and how we went round and round and round. Finally, we came down to it and we said, you know what? Yes, we understand that developers want to be built for BlackBerry. And we understand that some of them built very simple applications and are demanding that we do Built for BlackBerry. But you know what? We also owe it to the customers to make sure we hold that bar. So, we need a better way to describe enhanced. So what did we do? We put in the appeals process. So basically we said, okay, we're not experts in every field out there, so maybe your application is perfect for the field that it's in, and we just don't know. So what we did is we put in the appeals process. Each Built for BlackBerry application has a single appeal that they can say, no, my application fits all this criteria, and here's why. The appeal is reviewed by a 3-person board, and we vote. 2 out of 3 votes means you're built for BlackBerry. It's as simple as that. The key is each application only gets 1 appeal. Now, you can resubmit your app 3 times if you make changes, but you only get 1 appeal per application. So you can't make some changes, do an appeal, get turned down, make some changes, do another appeal, because it's the same application. Basically, here's the bottom line. When to resubmit. If we send you back information and you're like, yeah, they're right, I really should make these changes, and you make changes, fix bugs in your application, update functionality, make changes, that's a resubmit. But if we reject your application for simple function, and you say, you know what, it's really doing what I need it to do, then you may want to do an appeal. Now understand, we may still say it's still a simple function app. But we may not. That's why we put the appeals process in there. Okay? So if you think your application is perfect the way it is, make the appeals process. You'll send us the information about it. We'll review it with the board, and we'll make a decision one way or the other. Now, if you fail your appeal, that doesn't mean you can't go back and say, okay, yeah, I will add a bunch of more functionality and resubmit it. You can do that. You can resubmit it. You just can't reappeal. Okay? So, because we made that change and we felt it was fairly significant, we felt we owed it to the applications that we already declined for simple function to review them. So literally, we went back and retested every single application that had been rejected because it was a simple application. We tested thousands of them and went through and made sure that our decisions were right. And I'll be honest with you, some of them we overturned. A very small percentage, 1 or 2%, we overturned. But for the most part, we felt that we made the right decision. So every single application up until last month got looked at again. Okay? So now here we are in the present. We're starting to put these programs in place. If you've noticed in your BlackBerry world, every other week there's a Built for BlackBerry button now. That takes you to the 20 top apps, right? We cycle those through. So we've increased the discoverability, right? You've seen blog posts, our 60,000 readers on DevBlog. You've seen blog posts about applications that go out there, posts that we like. Tweets at BlackBerry Dev and by the evangelists like me that use them in our demonstrations. We focus on the Built for BlackBerry apps. So the overall timeline kind of looks like this, right? We started out back in November, and we're all the way up here. So that brings us up to date. So now, I'll bring Nancy up, and Nancy's going to tell you about where we're going. And she got to use the Back to the Future. I didn't. Here, you want the clicker?
Yeah, I managed to sneak this photo in. It was actually from Creative Commons. It wasn't quite the Doc Brown that we were looking for, but anyway, on to the future. Some things that we're looking to do over the next few quarters. Sometime in Q2, we're looking to expand our accepted languages. So right now we only accept 5 into the program. So one of the EFIGs, the English, Spanish, French, German, or Italian. We're looking to expand that to 32 languages. So we're still working it out with companies to figure out what languages those are, but we are looking to expand that to 32. The next thing that we are working on, we've released some stuff here, but we understand that it's difficult if you're not using Cascades. It's difficult to get that BB10 look and feel. So what we've done is we've started to create templates. Now we've released BBUI.js template. So this will give you, your basic action bar and, your basic action bar and your application menu with your information, your help, and your settings up top. So we're looking to do that. Right now, like I said, we've released it for BBUI.js, and we're looking to do it for Air, Cordova, and Sencha. Hot off the press, the jQuery mobile one was actually released this morning. So that is out there. I will put a link in the presentation when it gets released. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at changing the submission process. So right now, when you apply, you go through the BlackBerry World Vendor Portal. We're looking to change that to go into JAM Zone. And the reason that we're doing that is right now we had a lot of submissions that they weren't even valid for the program. So we had a lot of Android submissions, a lot of MIPIN submissions. This took up a lot of time and energy on the testing teams and delayed a lot of the communications going back to you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to have some automated scans, and right up front you're going to know whether you would, if you're eligible or not. So hopefully that will speed things up for everybody and make everybody's life a little bit easier. We're always changing what's going on the website, so I encourage you to always go out there. But we're going to be releasing a resources section on the developer.blackberry.com/built-for-BlackBerry site. This is going to be a one-stop shop where you can come and read all the news about Built for BlackBerry, because right now everything's in the blogs, and unless you specifically go looking for it or you miss something, you may have missed it. So we're going to have one spot for news. We're going to continue to do case studies and games. Again, case studies on apps and games, and this will be on the website as well. Webcast is something that is already there, and we're going to look at expanding that as well. Something that is exciting, though, is that we're going to start publishing test plans. So if you would like to come out and use our test plans as a resource to test your app out before you submit it to the Built for BlackBerry program, it's not a guarantee that you would. It's not a guarantee that you would pass, but it's some guidelines that you could follow and maybe catch some stuff before you would submit into the program. This was actually just released today as well. Built for BlackBerry is now in the rewards section. So if you have a Built for BlackBerry app, you will receive, you should be getting it soon if you haven't already. You will receive JAM rewards, so you can go into our JAM site or into our rewards site and redeem your points for BlackBerry wares, or if I think you can do conference and travel depending on how many points you have. So that did go live. That's exciting. And Alec touched on this in the keynote. Unfortunately, I don't have any screenshots for you yet, but these are going to be the new discoverability tools in BlackBerry World. So we're looking at implementing a regional top Built for BlackBerry list. So what that means is that whether you're in whatever region you're in, you will have a top Built for BlackBerry apps list. Similar to what you see right now for, if you go into BlackBerry World, top paid apps, top free apps, top downloaded apps. It'll be Built for BlackBerry apps. The next thing we're doing is we're looking at putting in an identifier into any search. So if you go into BlackBerry World now and you search on something, you can you see the list come back and you see the price and the star rating. What we're going to do is we're going to put a BlackBerry identifier on that return search. The third thing we're doing is we're going to put Built for BlackBerry identifiers on the actual app screen. So if you search for something in BlackBerry World, you go into the app, there will be a Built for BlackBerry logo or some sort of indicator that it is a Built for BlackBerry app. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to have Built for BlackBerry search results category. So again, when you search in BlackBerry World, it comes back, I think right now, it comes back with the results for apps and games, and I think it's albums. Anyway, so there will be a Built for BlackBerry section that will come back on every search. All right. We actually don't have a Q&A slide, but hopefully you've learned some stuff about the past, present, and future of the program.
So if we tell you it's Q&A, will you know that it's Q&A? Okay. So do you have any questions for either one of us? Yeah.
It won't actually be. It'll be based on downloads. Downloads. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry.
Look,
Thank you.
right. What's a region in the context that I'm from Jamaica?
I think the Caribbean would be Americas, North America. It would either be North. Yeah, I guess it would be
Yeah,
North America.
yeah.
Latin
I don't think
America.
we're down to defining the individual regions yet, but they'll probably jive with what we've got in the for the submissions. When you submit your application, you basically specify country.
So I'll be competing with apps like from South America, Spanish-speaking countries, and so on.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, there we go. Over here.
So people can, like a user can buy stuff within an app?
In-app purchase, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that would qualify as payment service.
That qualifies as a service integration. Yeah, in-app payment services, as long as you use our payment backend.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
You mentioned that that the BlackBerry built for BlackBerry is free for a limited span of time, right? Do you know when that will be? Like you will stop that, or
The limited free program, are we going to extend that?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, cool. If you do, we have one more in the back. There's always one more.
Since you guys implemented the new process where you submit and then to the app world and then submit to the built for BlackBerry, do you guys actually have numbers on the difference between when they were actually in the regular app world and then when they got the actual tag for built for BlackBerry?
So numbers as in
Like
how
downloads.
many or timing or?
No, like downloads and like how much visibility.
Oh, I don't know if we've got the numbers of downloads. I know the one that we discussed is the one that was in the Alex this morning. So Jeremy Duke, who wrote Space TV Plus, he saw a 3,000% increase in his applications when it was in the Built for BlackBerry tab than when it wasn't. So, yeah. So we do see a huge amount of, at least in that instance, of downloads that we see. Okay. The other thing I'll say, any other questions? I don't want to cut anybody off. Okay. The other thing is there is a Built for BlackBerry booth over here in the JAM space. So lots of people there that know Built for BlackBerry. Usually one of us is there as well. And we're at the conference, so if you see us wandering around, feel free to grab it. Well, tap us on the shoulder or something and ask questions. Yeah, that's not good. Okay, so we appreciate your time and coming out, and I hope to see you in some of the other Built for BlackBerry sections, and I really want to see the apps you guys are going to build. Thank you.